Hello, welcome to the program Pilgrims Path, the program where footprints of modern day pilgrims have trod, where we trace their steps to learn, to motivate and inspire younger generations. Today we are in the home of one great educationist of this country, Elder I.K Boateng. Elder, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Elder, have you always wanted to be an educationist?
When I was finishing Form 5 in 58, I wanted to go into broadcasting. But 2 weeks to our exams, the education officer came to Bekwai and talked to us. So I decided to become a teacher.
Now, so who is Elder I.K Boateng?
I.K Boateng comes from Ntonsu Ashanti, and he's the child of Opani Kwabna Asumadu of Adjumambu, a village near Akontansi. And my mother was Abna Nkrumah of Ntonsu Ashanti. They are both deceased.
And so where did you start your schooling?
I started schooling at Ntonsu, that is class 1. And then I stayed there until P6 when I finished the primary school. Then those days we never had a middle school at Ntonsu, so we had to go to Asamai, where our relatives were, and we could have accommodation. And that was SDA Middle School at Asamai, Ashanti.
So from
Ntonsu
to Asamai, then
yeah, from Ntonsu to Asamai, I was young, very young, and I stayed there for only 1 year. I told my parents that I wanted to, I couldn't stay at Asamai. The conditions were not that suitable, and I would like to change. Fortunately, I had an uncle, deceased now, who was a son timber contractor, and he supplied timber to a man also from Ashanti who lived in Yendi. He was a contractor of he was putting up buildings and selling cement. So from Asamai, I transferred to Yendi District Council Middle School.
Middle school. Okay.
Yeah. And I remained there for 3 good years. I joined the school in Form 2, Form 3, Form 4, Form 2, 3 and 4. And after middle school, I came down south, where I took a late entrance at Bekwai Secondary School. I was admitted in January 55, I'm sorry.
55, right.
Yes. I left middle school in 1954 at Yendi.
Yendi, all right.
Yes. And I came to Bekwai in 1955.
Okay. And so after your secondary schooling in Bekwai?
I went to West College for 2 years. Qualified as a professional teacher and was posted to Agona SDA Middle School, where I taught for 2 years, and then I was transferred to the Eastern region. In fact, I was at the training college for 1 term. After 1 term, that was September, December. Then from January, I was made a head teacher at SDA Primary School at Betomu, Koforidua. Unfortunately, the school has been relocated. the Methodists also have taken over the school because it's near their building.
Okay.
So I was there for January to August, and when schools closed, I found my way to Legon. 1963.
63, okay.
And I was at Legon for 3 years. Then in 1966, I was posted to Bekwai, SDA Secondary School, where I remained for a long time, except for 2 academic terms, which took me to the University of Cape Coast, my postgraduate education, and then 1971, October, I left for the States, precisely to Andrews University. I stayed there for a year, and October 1972, I was back in Ghana.
Ghana, okay. Now, ma'am, were you married by the time you went to Bekwai?
Yes, I was. I married in 1963.
63, okay. So from Bekwai, you went to the States?
Yes, and then from Bekwai, I went to Cape Coast, then came back. Then 1971, I went back to the States,
right?
And stayed for 1 academic year.
So from the States, you joined the Ghana Education Service?
No, from 1961.
61.
I joined the Ghana.
Oh, so you were still, you were with Ghana?
I was a professional teacher.
That's right. Okay.
And fortunately, I went on study leave.
Study leave, right? Okay.
On the 2 occasions.
2 occasions.
Cape Coast and the Andrews University.
All right. Okay. But when you came back, then you went to the office.
I came back to the school.
To the school before?
To teach in Bekwai.
Bekwai, okay.
In fact, I was at Bekwai when I came back until 1983.
83, all right.
When I left the office at the school to work in the office at Tepa.
Tepa, okay.
In 83. And I was there for 4 years. 87 took me to Agona,
right.
From a teacher to director.
Yeah, okay.
Then, after 3 years, 1990, I was back to Kumasi as the Metro Director of Education. And I stayed I remained in the post for 7 years.
7 good years. That's great.
During the revolution.
This way.
Yeah.
Tough times.
Yeah.
Have you always been an Adventist?
Oh, yes. You know, to begin with, my mother was an Adventist. I came from a broken marriage, a broken home. But my uncle was. So I leaned on to him. And I was going to SDA Church even in the 50s until from Asamai. So I've been with the church. But fortunately, when I came to Bekwai in 1955, I was baptized by Pastor Amwa. And by Pastor Amwa. J.K. Amwa.
I see, right. Now, Ella, I know you've done so much work in education. Now, I just want to pick your mind on this area. As a country, we've had so many educational reforms, but it appears we've still not really gotten a hold of what type of education we need as a people. What do you think might have contributed to that?
Currently, I believe the timetable educational program is good, but missing the practical side of our schooling. And I believe that from 1987, they started to reform education, and to introduce the science. No, not introduce, but emphasize the science and the practicals too. But as at now, we have not had the practical lifted up. No. The JSS started with practicals, so that the arts and the practicals, but then it didn't grow up. Currently, we still have that side not really coming up. Kids they go in for practical and so on, but the practicals, like carpentry and all those, they haven't reached the advanced level.
Is it because we don't have the infrastructure?
Oh, I believe that we have teachers who can teach, but then we should be able to provide the instruments in all the schools, and this is not possible now. That's what I see. It's not possible now.
Because we've been struggling with education,
yes,
and it appears we're still not...
yeah, well, I think in terms of this, of the arts, we are making a headway, no doubt about it. We have really brilliant scholars. But the practical side, you know, the carpentry side, and I think the NBTI group and so on,
right,
we need to have a lot of revamping so that people can come out and do things. I was in the States, and we were going around before in 1990. No, was it 90 year? Yes, 1993. I was part of a team of 6 who visited the United States, precisely in at Minneapolis. We were in there for 2 weeks, and you know, the gentleman who was one of the men of the ILP promised that he will let me see his former school. So I hear the minister at the time cut down the number, but I was still included to be able to see. You know, the way they do it is fantastic. You know, gadgets to handle, even from P4 and 5 up to secondary school, up to middle school or secondary school, is really great. So the child gets to do know a lot of practical work. So when he grows with it. But here, we don't have that opportunity. There is a limit to producing the gadgets and so on that should help us.
Now let's shift from the national level and come to Adventists. Adventists seem to have some philosophy of education. But in Ghana here, it doesn't appear we have really made any impact when it comes to Adventist education. What is your view on that?
Well, somehow we have been able to make people realize that the man cannot be trained only practically, but mentally and spiritually.
Right.
He must be led to know what to do, and also he must be made to know God.
Amen.
That is one thing. In terms of the practice, when the whole country doesn't have the means, others cannot have the means too. But at least there is something also embedded in you as a student, that God is and he must be worshipped.
Amen. Now, looking at our educational structure, what do you think can be done to make it produce the type of people we want to have?
Well, I believe that currently the government is doing very well, where every child is being given the opportunity to go to school. When I went to the States, I admire them, because the little thing that you do, everything that you do, you are admired for it. the liberty to study this and that, you grew up with it. And I remember one where there was a student in the class of Mr. Sedugra. He was there with us. He had doing his masters in maths, and he had this boy, and he was telling me the boy wasn't good and so on. When we came back home, we heard the boy was a very important figure. He could organize. He was good at music, and he was gonna hold big concerts. So that was his ability. In Ghana here, we don't have that opportunity very much, where you can develop along your line and to the best of your ability.
So we still
have a long way to go. Yeah, we still have a long way to go.
Now, being in the Metro Education Office for quite a while, let's start from Bekwai. What do you think are some of the challenges that confronted you?
Oh, Bekwai, I didn't have much problem. I had been going to church from my village. And as far as the Bekwai was concerned, except that at the beginning, we didn't have very competent teachers. But I would say that those teachers who came were doing very well, except that you needed a higher level. But with time, the teachers came.
Now, I remember in the late 70s, when you mentioning secondary schools, especially in Ashanti region, or even in Ghana, Bekwai, Prempe, Opokuwari, there were some group of schools.
Yeah,
it appears currently you hardly hear of Bekwai in that cluster.
Yeah.
What do you think might have contributed to that?
I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I stayed in Bekwai for pretty 70 years, but for 2 academic years spent out. We worked very hard in those days, and the standard was very high. I remember a student came to me, and the headmaster of was Osudanko, he should be preserved. He's dead. He was the headmaster, and he was my mate at Legon. So when he had students who were good, and they couldn't find way in his school, he sent them to me. So at our time, we were also more devoted. We do believe that as I was a senior headmaster when Mr. Dorland, the very day I went in, the following week he made me the senior headmaster. And we stayed on the job and did our best. And devotion was one of those things, and commitment. You know, at that time, some of us overworked ourselves, but maybe God was guiding us to do the best that we can before we left. I should have left quite early, but somehow I kept staying on, even after students had demonstrated against me. So I think at in those days, we were people who were devoted. You see, as a senior housemaster, midnight, I was with one gentleman who is dead from Asine Dubiasi, Mr. He has died. We had to roam around to check the students from running away to town. And so in those days, we were working. These days, because the boys are difficult, the boys and girls are very difficult, some also choose to do things their own way. If you study, study. If you don't, forget about it. But I think the commitment of the Adventists is not to just leave things as they are, but to get himself involved and get the work done.
We've been talking to Elder I.K Boateng, a great educationist of this country. He's been sharing some of the wonderful moments with us, but we'll be back soon. Welcome back. We've been sharing experiences with Elder I.K Boateng, one of the longest serving head of Bekwai's SDA secondary school. But from Bekwai, you were also in the Metro office.
Yes.
How long were you in the Metro office?
I was there for 7 years.
7 years. As a Metro director?
For the Kumasi
Metro. For the entire Kumasi Metro.
Yes.
What were some of the challenges that you encountered?
I think that the first thing I saw is that I had to be a committed Adventist. It's not easy to sit in that chair. And personally, I recommend that people who come to that office should have had experience outside that office so that they can stand. When you come in, you meet a lot of problems. Even from the staff, from the staff, people think want to have their own way and so on. They want to mellow you, and you have to stand. You need to pray hard so that, and they get to know your philosophy of life. At a point, they got to know this man, you can't take any bribe to him. He will accept it. And fortunately, the Lord gave me the strength to stand on that.
Amen. Amen.
And I was firm, but very fair, when I saw that somebody had a case I helped. But when you went wrong, I applied the axe, although in a sympathizing way. Yeah. I think it wasn't easy. And we had so many difficult teachers you had to deal with. And sometimes applying the acts was difficult, but we did apply it and warned the teachers to behave more appropriately. Yeah.
Now, coming to your private life as a family man.
Yeah.
Maybe, how many children do you have?
I have 7. I must first apologize. My wife has a funeral.
Oh, okay.
His father's niece and so on. So he had to go. Yes. And I said, well, I'm having guests, but with the Shanti funerals, you cannot interfere so much. Okay. I have 7 children.
7 children, that's great.
Yeah.
Great. And how many grandchildren?
Oh, I think I've got 12 now.
12, that's
yeah.
great.
3 are in the US. No, in Germany.
Germany.
And the rest are here.
Now, are all the children outside?
No, 2 are outside.
2 are outside?
Yes. The second one is in Germany. The first one is in yes. The first one is in Germany, with the children, with the wife, with the husband, and the second one is in Texas.
Texas, US. Okay.
2, 3 years.
And then, where has been your place of worship?
Oh, when I came to Kumasi, I was first worshiping at South Interest. But when I retired, I came to Sepebuku Church, where I worship now.
Oh, now, okay,
yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, looking at our growth as a church now, since you've been in the church all these years,
yeah,
what would you say are some of the things that appears to be deviating from the core Adventist way of life that you have known?
Well, I think personally, as I hinted earlier, the Adventist must be committed to God and to his fellow men. And, in terms of following the don'ts and the do's of the church, we must get involved. Some Adventist young men, and we can't hide this, may be in the church, but some may like to drink. I feel so sad for a friend at Asamai, Tamfoy area. We all began at Asamai, then we met at Legon, but he was still not a full member of the church. That's what I am saying, that we must be committed, no matter what. the circumstances. If you are, you are. Because when you go to the Legon, life is free. You could behave in the way you want. But then you must be firm and stick to your principles. And again, wherever we go, we must openly make people know us.
That's right.
If they know you, you don't have a problem. At Tepa, the Catholic priest and the catechist came to me to find out when I arrived at the place. We were discussing things and so on. He said, "What church do you belong to?" And I said, "I am an Adventist." And that ended the conversation. So wherever we are as Adventists, no matter what, we should try to portray the Adventist philosophy of life. That's one concern. And I also feel that the pastors will have to do well to make sure that they can trace our members wherever they are in their constituencies. That is important. Because when they come together, then it's right. I remember in 1963, we were 6 or 7 students Adventists. But then it grew up gradually. Now I think it's
very big.
Over 200. Yes. So that's the first point I would say. The lifestyle of the Adventist, wherever he is, should be looked at. He himself accept that you can't do this, you can't do that by Adventist standards. And when we can uphold the standards, then we will be friends. At Tepa, I have a problem with a mass education officer. I was his next house neighbor, and he wanted to dictate to me. He said I was too small, and he wanted me to accept a lady who was academic poor. He was selling plantain, and the man came to me and trying to convince me to give him people teaching appointment. We tested the lady, and the lady was improving. So I said, "No way." And the man got angry with me. But fortunately, I stood my ground. And I believe that as we work, we must have principles. If we have them, it will work. I think that that's all I can say.
Now, this Tepa experience, when they came to you to find out the Catholic...
yes, the white Catholic priest.
Why do you think when they heard that you are an Adventist, they withdrew?
Well, they thought that if I wasn't, then they could push forward.
Win you.
Yeah, yes.
I see.
And I showed them in the office that I meant business.
Yes, right.
So when I get to Tepa this time, a lot of people follow me. Because I work with them. And even Kumasi Metropolis, everybody is appreciating. Last week I was at the office of the one of the directors. They have now this is at Tonsu. They have now areas demarcated. Apart from the directors here at Swansea or that, but the rest are also spread out. They are spread out. I didn't know the director at all, but I was going to find the director and ask him to help my niece. my niece, who was asking for transfer because of his health. Lo and behold, when I got down there, the first person I met was the director. I didn't know him, but he knew me. And from the spot, he took me to the office and was so helpful. And he took the letter and said, "Oh, yeah, things are not okay now, but let's wait until January. Okay. I think I can help you." So, when you live the good life, your relations with other people, it's good. You don't have a problem because they are all watching you. If you are under this, whether you are true to your faith. And our young men will have to do that. Because people can drink, and moral life and so on. When you are doing that, they are watching. You can't. Because when you come to this commercial office and your life is not straight, you won't last. No.
Well, but considering it appears there is some lowering of morals in the church today as compared with yesteryears.
Yes.
Is it because we are not educating our members today, or what perhaps might have brought about this?
I believe that it must start from the homes where they come from. Adventist parents will have to educate their children to behave, particularly when they come to institutions. When I was at Bekwai, I had to punish Adventist children for the things that they were doing. In fact, one was the son of a mate of mine. That mate was in the training college when we were there. So he was more or less a friend. And he came to sixth form at Bekwai, and he was not behaving. So I suspended him. And the man got angry, and I said, no way. With that he went to Britain he couldn't make it. He came from, I forgot his name, from Masamai area. So I believe that the time has come for the home to do its work. And at the Adventist school, I expect the Adventist teacher to go a little more to be able to help. You know, I used to work with a man who's dead, Mr. Asari, from Asin Adubiasi. He was older than me, but I was the senior then at the time. And he worked very hard and with me, and we were very nice. We wish that staff members of their schools should have determination to maintain discipline and order in the schools. They must be committed to that. And the heads themselves should also try and help them do it.
So if you have a word for Adventist teachers today?
Well, I'll tell them that they must be committed to the Adventist philosophy of education and be proud that they are teaching in an Adventist school. Because we have standards. I tell an example. I had an art teacher who was going out, and he wouldn't even tell me he was leaving the school. Now, before then, we went to assembly, and as we came out, I was following him. He was openly smoking.
In the school?
Yes. Openly smoking. And I didn't talk. I said, please come to my office. So I told him, this is very irregular. You cannot stay in the school if you continue doing this. Then before the end of the term, he wanted to go to Nigeria. So he was taking advantage. And I said, you cannot stay in the school. No. So he went without even telling me. And then wanted the wife to come and collect the September salary. And I said, no way. So I refused to give it the money. So my thinking is that we who are Adventists, we are not angels. Yes. But we must be committed to good discipline. If you ask anybody from your choir who knows I.K Boateng, even their grandboys, there was a boy, a grand boy, not Adventist. His aunt was the vice governor of Bank of Ghana. I forgot the name. And they asked me to comment on his testimonial. So I told them, if you accept this boy, you accept danger. He's dangerous. This boy could take the crayon and write on the school walls against me as headmaster. He had no cause. Yet he did all this. And then the juniors would quickly take water and soap and then brush it off. So when I was asked to comment on his life, I said, no way. the boy is not good. So he didn't get the chance to go to work at the Bank of Ghana. And I believe that much as we want to help people, we must be fair to them. Fair. And I was giving a lot of testimonials to students. So if you did the wrong thing and I shelved it, I wasn't doing the right thing. It might disturb or stop the chance of other people who could rise.
And why do you think some Adventist teachers do not want to be sent to Adventist schools?
Well, I cannot give you the good reason, but I may suggest, I may guess that by their standards of life, they may not fit in with the Adventist life. He calls himself an Adventist, but then he will not live the life. You know, I had one teacher from Domiabra Ashanti. He's now dead. He was not behaving well. So I wanted to make him feel that I had authority. And then he was angry. The wife of my typist, they were all working against me. So when, in 1980, there was a demonstration against me. And when they went through, they found those who were against me. And at that time, I praised Pastor Bediako. He was the chairman of the board. He did a good job. The truth came out. That my charges were about 30 or 31, but I went through. So I believe that even though we cannot discriminate, those who want to come to our Adventist schools must be convinced that they want to follow the church's principles. That is my concern. Because otherwise, they give room for a lot of things to happen. When students are even guilty, then they support them. You know, there was a time Mr. Chairman was there. Adventists were being asked to go for games on the Sabbath. They went. So they went.
The entire student body?
Yes, from the Adventist school. The sports master, Mr. Ishan, and somebody. They were able to send, and from Kumasi, the stadium, Mr. Chairman had calls. This and that. No. And I think that we cannot do. So I expect the Adventist headmaster to do that this week. Yes. Once you are right, do that. Discipline cannot be joked with. So that I believe that will be all right. And again, the sons and daughters of the Adventist parents will have to be tutored well. Before they leave the house, they should learn they are Adventist children. And when they come to the school, they should behave accordingly.
Elder, reflecting on how far God has been with you in years on campus and in the office, what are the things that you want to thank God for?
Elder, I think I will thank God for everything that I've been able to make. Academically and otherwise, the Lord has been so good to me. Everywhere I went, I had no problem at all. And, 6 years ago, I broke down completely. Stroke. First, I was able to get about 7 months. Then second one, 2013. And I'm now even having problem with arthritis and so on. So the Lord has really been great.
Amen.
And I cannot say He has been wonderful.
Amen.
And I didn't have problem with primary promotions. When I went to the 12th promotion, I was there. It's the Lord's doing.
Amen.
And I would like to recommend that the youth must go with God first. That will help. Because when things are even difficult, you'll find that later on the solution will come.
Amen.
Yeah. I would like to. Because at Mekwai, for instance, when I was a housemaster, some people didn't go to church. They would lock themselves out in the dormitory and go and break it and so, But some of them ended up as choir masters, as music teachers, and as church elders.
Yes.
Kumasi here at Bantama. No, so I really thank God.
Amen.
When I was a little younger, at 29, when I entered the choir.
Okay.
I was 29.
29.
So a little younger and very strong. So I was really taken up with the students. But now they realize I have helped them.
Right.
Some of them were difficult, but some write to me and so on. Some even get me messages. But that's the Lord's doing.
Amen.
So people who want to stay in the church's business must be committed and have to examine themselves that they are doing the good thing.
Amen.
When you do that, you don't have a problem.
Amen. What would you say have been your favorite Bible text that has really kept you on?
Actually, Matthew chapter 11:28.
Matthew 11:28.
Come to me all the day, labor, and I'll give you rest and so on. That is my yes. When I read it, I became fired to work hard.
Amen.
Yes.
And what would you say is your favorite hymn?
Guide me, O God, thy great Jehovah. 538.
538.
Yes.
Pilgrim to this very
when I was despaired, I sang that song and I was revived.
Amen. Amen.
Because there were occasions which were things were difficult. But then I sat down quietly and I said, why has God allowed me to stay in the choir for that long? I was a senior master there, I was just a headmaster there, and I became headmaster. All there. So I knew everything about the students. Everything.
How many years were they?
Oh, 17 years.
17 years in Bekwai.
If I add my 4 years of secondary schooling, that'll be 21.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. And I'm still grateful. The Lord has been good. Very good to me.
Oh, thank God for...
And I also want to thank the church, you know.
Right.
The Elderly Church has done a good job. You know, when I was finishing secondary school, I thought I would go to the broadcasting to go and share my ideas. But then, that very year, one broadcaster, something, at 1 o'clock, they announced some announcing stories or something like that. Something, an account man, either from Kibi or whatever it is. Oh, it was so good, his language. And I thought I could go there. But when there were cases of people dying unceremoniously, I thought, why don't you change? And I decided to become a teacher.
And the teaching has been great benefits to many
my temper
young people.
Goes along that way.
Right.
My temper goes along that way. So I've been telling young people, you may be brilliant, no, yes. But if you choose to be a teacher, that will be good for you.
Amen. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
We're so grateful to be here to hear these wonderful stories.
It's my pleasure.
You've been listening to Elder I.K Boateng, a veteran educationist who has been throughout his life in the education system, and he has really been a blessing to many people who are now occupying various positions throughout our country. And the message he has for us is that be committed in your line of vocation. Where God has called you, make sure you are committed, and surely you will accomplish great things to His glory.
Thank you.
May the good Lord continue to bless us as we learn from these great men and emulate their examples. God bless you. Hope to be with you again.